According to interpretations of the Islamic calendar, this year marks 1,393 years since the Muslim conquest of Mecca, led by the Prophet Muhammad. The conquest of Mecca, an event that took place in 630 CE, was a significant turning point in Islamic history. Led by the Prophet Muhammad, this military campaign marked the capture of the city of Mecca, the birthplace of Islam, and the subsequent conversion of its inhabitants to Islam. However, the event was not without its challenges, as an earthquake struck during the siege, adding an element of uncertainty to the outcome. Was this a sign from God, or just a mere coincidence? This video will explore the circumstances surrounding the earthquake, its impact on the conquest of Mecca, and the significance of this event in Islamic history. According to historical accounts, there were reports of an earthquake occurring during the time of the conquest. The exact details and magnitude of the earthquake that occurred during the conquest of Mecca are not extensively documented. Historical accounts mention that it took place shortly after the Muslims entered Mecca. Some narrations suggest that the Kaaba, the sacred structure in Mecca, shook as a result of this earthquake. The earthquake had both physical and symbolic implications for the conquest of Mecca. As people were frightened and disoriented, it made it easier for the Muslim forces to enter the city without facing much resistance. This has led to speculation and interpretation regarding whether this was a sign from God. Some argued that the earthquake was a sign from God, demonstrating his approval and support for the Islamic faith and the actions of Prophet Muhammad. This view is supported by the fact that the earthquake struck just as the Islamic forces entered Mecca, and the Prophet Muhammad was able to enter the city without resistance. The tremors were so strong that they shook the Kaaba, the holiest site in Islam, which houses the Black Stone and the Well of Zamzam. As the ground shook, the people of Mecca were filled with fear and astonishment. Some of them took it as a sign that they should submit to the Islamic faith without further resistance. The earthquake played a crucial role in the smooth and peaceful conquest of Mecca, as it instilled a sense of awe and reverence in the hearts of the Meccans. Following the conquest, many of its inhabitants came to accept Islam and pledge their allegiance to Muhammad. Those who believe that the earthquake was a sign from God often point to the Quran, which states that God has the power to send earthquakes as a form of punishment or warning. In the context of the conquest of Mecca, some argue that the earthquake served as a reminder to the people of Mecca that their previous disbelief and hostility towards the Islamic faith had been unwise, and that they should now submit to the will of God. On the other hand, those who viewed the earthquake as a mere coincidence argue that the Islamic faith should not be credited with supernatural powers or divine intervention, simply because an earthquake occurred during a significant event in its history. They maintain that attributing the earthquake to divine intervention is a form of confirmation bias, where individuals selectively interpret events to confirm their pre-existing beliefs. In recent years, the world has been left shocked by the occurrence of catastrophic events in the holiest city of Islam, Mecca. The city, revered by millions of Muslims as the birthplace of Prophet Muhammad and the site of the Kaaba, has been repeatedly, unexpectedly struck by a series of natural disasters. What is even more alarming is the catastrophic result of this. These events have raised questions about their significance and potential interpretations as signs. Mecca has witnessed unprecedented weather events that have left experts and residents shocked. The occurrence of heavy rainstorms, flash floods, and even earthquakes in a region known for its arid climate has raised questions about the underlying causes of these anomalies. The flooding had a profound impact on Mecca, affecting its residents, infrastructure, and religious sites. Homes and businesses were inundated, leading to widespread property damage and displacement of residents. The floodwaters also encroached upon sacred sites, including the Masjid al-Haram, posing significant challenges for authorities tasked with preserving these revered locations. In one specific neighborhood, Al-Kaka, 45 millimeters of rain was recorded within a 24-hour period, highlighting the intensity of the rainfall and its impact on the local infrastructure and residents. The severe weather conditions in Mecca did not only affect the pilgrimage experience for many individuals, but it also placed strain on the city's infrastructure and emergency response capabilities. Rain usually falls in Mecca in small amounts between November and January. The rainfall, as scant as it is, also presents the threat of flooding and has been a danger since the earliest times. According to Al-Kurd, there had been 89 historic floods by 1965, including several in the period. In the last century, the most severe one occurred in 1941. The fierce hailstorm that hit the Kaaba has cast a shadow over its treasured importance. As a religious site, Muslims view rain as a gift from God, so initially they believed the hailstorm was a positive event. However, the situation quickly turned worse as floods and traffic chaos ensued on Mecca's streets and roads. During the event, people who were worshipping at the Kaaba ran away in search of cover to avoid getting hurt by the hail. There were many children running around the holy grounds, either looking for safety or their families. The hailstorm, which struck Mecca, caused significant damage to the city and its holy sites. The hailstones were described to be the size of tennis balls and caused widespread destruction, including damage to the Masjid al-Haram and the Kaaba itself. The hailstorm was so intense that it shattered the Kaaba's outer cladding, leaving the building exposed to the elements. In Islamic tradition, natural phenomena such as lightning and storms are often interpreted symbolically. They are seen as reminders of Allah's sovereignty over the universe and serve as metaphors for His power and might. Lightning, with its dazzling display of light and energy, is often associated with divine illumination and guidance. It is also considered a symbol of divine intervention and a reminder of the Day of Judgment. Similarly, storms are viewed as symbols of Allah's ability to bring about change and renewal. The imagery of rain bringing life to barren land is often used as a metaphor for spiritual rejuvenation and mercy from Allah. In addition to these, there have been instances of locusts invading the mosque in 2007 and swarms of flies in 2015. These incidents are not unique to the Grand Mosque, but can happen in places with high humidity and rainfall. Also, in 2019, a bunch of insects invaded the Grand Mosque in Mecca, upsetting the worshippers. Initially thought to be cockroaches, they turned out to be black locusts and crickets. The spread of locusts during the Hajj is a phenomenon that has been discussed for centuries. The Mecca municipality confirmed the phenomenon, which residents say are shocking occurrences. According to CNN, officials identified the locusts as migratory black grasshoppers and said that 22 teams consisting of 138 people were dispatched to deal with the infestation. Events such as the presence of unusual insects at the Kaaba, hailstorms and flash floods in Mecca can have a profound impact on how individuals perceive and understand the world around them. For many Muslims, these occurrences serve as reminders of the mysteries of creation and the awe-inspiring power of Allah. They may also reinforce beliefs in divine signs and providence, shaping their worldview and spiritual outlook. Furthermore, such events have sparked discussions within Muslim communities about theology, faith, and the intersection of religious belief with natural phenomena. Alongside the floods, insect infestations and hailstorms, several other unusual events have taken place within the Kaaba. These have included the earthquakes in Mecca. Over the past 1,000 years, earthquakes have occurred along the borders of Saudi Arabia that were felt by the population. Locating the areas where they occurred was approximated because of the low number of inhabitants and the lack of written records in the past. The current statistics indicate that historical records on seismicity are largely incomplete, even in regard to earthquakes of magnitude 6 or higher. However, one of the well-documented events on seismic activities in Saudi Arabia is the occurrence of a volcanic eruption in Harat Rahat near Medina, which was accompanied by a significantly high seismic activity. This area is still experiencing low seismic activity to date. The last important seismic event in Saudi Arabia was the 1995 Hail earthquake in the Gulf of Aqaba, which caused significant damages to the cities on both sides of the Gulf of Aqaba, and it was felt hundreds of kilometers away from its epicenter. Earthquakes with magnitude 6, taking place along the axis of the Red Sea, are usually not felt by the population of the cities on both sides of the Red Sea. However, they may pose a pronounced threat to the infrastructures. A moderate earthquake, measuring 5.4 in magnitude, occurred in 2009 in Harat al-Shaqqa to the north of Yanbu, which was linked to the activity of a magma chamber at shallow crustal depths. Although it only caused minor damages to properties, it implies that the Arabian Shield can be potentially subjected to earthquake hazards. The strongest recent earthquake of the past 10 years in Saudi Arabia occurred on June 27, 2015. A total of 13 earthquakes, with a magnitude of 4 or above, have struck within 300 kilometers of Mecca region, Saudi Arabia, in the past 10 years. This comes down to a yearly average of 1 earthquake per year. Consequently, it can be concluded that Mecca is a region of moderate seismicity, since large earthquakes affecting this region is generated from faults located about 150 km far away inside the Red Sea, while the closest earthquakes are of small magnitude. The recent earthquakes in Mecca, while it may have briefly disrupted activities in the city, do not carry the same cultural or religious weight as the earthquake that occurred during the conquest of Mecca. This is because the recent earthquakes are not associated with any specific historical event or divine intervention. The earthquake during the conquest of Mecca holds great significance in Islamic history for several reasons. Firstly, it marked the final victory for Muhammad and his followers over the Quraysh tribe, who had been their staunchest adversaries. The conquest allowed for the unification of the Arabian Peninsula under Islamic rule and paved the way for the spread of Islam beyond its borders. Secondly, the earthquake highlighted the power and authority of Prophet Muhammad as a leader. The belief that God had sent a natural disaster to aid the Muslims served to reinforce Muhammad's status as a chosen messenger and solidify his position as the leader of the Muslim community. Lastly, the earthquake's impact on the Kaaba emphasized the cleansing and purification of Islam. The intense vibration of the Kaaba was seen by some as a metaphorical destruction of idolatry and a symbolic rebuilding of true monotheism. They believed that this event further strengthened the religious significance of the Kaaba and solidified its status as Islam's holiest site.